What happened to the black sheep of your family? My Uncle Greg was always labeled the family failure. While everyone else became doctors and lawyers, he worked odd jobs and lived in his car. My grandparents would gossip about him at every family dinner, saying things like, if only he'd gone to college, or such wasted potential. I was 16 when Greg showed up at our Christmas gathering looking different, clean-shaven, wearing a suit, driving a new Tesla. Everyone's jaws dropped. He announced he'd made it big in tech, sold his startup for millions. Suddenly, the same relatives who'd mocked him for years were kissing up, asking for investment advice. My dad pulled me aside that night and whispered, don't trust Greg's success. Money from thin air always disappears into thin air. But Greg proved everyone wrong. He bought a beautiful house, started a charitable foundation. He even offered to pay for my college. Then came the family reunion last summer. Greg arrived in a helicopter, which seemed a bit much. But what happened next changed everything. In front of everyone, he handed out envelopes. Personal gifts, he called them. Inside each one was a printed screenshot of all the cruel texts, emails, and social media posts our relatives had sent about him over the years. He'd kept every single one. The aunt who'd called him worthless in 2012, he had the Facebook message. The cousin who said he'd die homeless, there was the email. Even my dad's text to my mom saying Greg was an embarrassment to the family name. Standing there in his perfectly tailored suit, Greg said, I spent 10 years building a data mining company. Guess what we mined? The silence was deafening. Every digital word you ever wrote about me. And now, I own a piece of each of your companies. Turns out, while living in his car, Greg had taught himself coding. He created software that could trace and store deleted messages. The startup he'd sold? It was bought by a major tech firm, but he'd kept a significant ownership stake in every family member's business through shell companies and silent investments. You all thought I was sleeping in my car because I was a failure, he said, sipping champagne. I was working, learning, building, and you never bothered to ask why. One by one, he listed off his ownership percentages. 25% of my aunt's law firm, 30% of my cousin's medical practice, even 15% of my dad's accounting firm, all bought through private subsidiaries no one had bothered to research. For 10 years, you treated me like dirt, Greg continued. Now, I'm your biggest silent partner, and I'm not so silent anymore. My Uncle Roger tried to laugh it off. Come on, Greg, we're family. We were just worried about you. Greg smiled. Funny how that worry looks a lot like cruelty when it's printed out. Don't worry, though. I'm not taking over. I'm selling my shares. To your competitors. The color drained from everyone's faces. Greg had managed to buy into their vulnerabilities while they were too busy mocking him to notice. He'd used their own arrogance as a blind spot. He turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, except you, Amy. He looked at me. You were the only one who shared your lunch with me when I was living rough. Your college is still paid for. In full. As his helicopter took off, my dad grabbed his phone, probably to call his lawyer. But Greg's face appeared on the screen in a pre-recorded message. I wouldn't bother. Check your contracts. Everything was legal. You all signed off on it years ago. Maybe if you'd bothered to read the fine print instead of writing nasty messages about me, you'd have noticed my company name.